If you've been watching MCrider for any length of time, you probably already know that I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, we're going to start this week's video off with a confession. And I have to confess that a lot of times when I'm riding around through the Metroplex, I'm often going over the posted speed limit. So this week on MCrider, I'll tell you why, and then at the end, I want you to leave a comment and tell me what you would do in the same situation. This is home for me. This is Dallas and Fort Worth. Dallas is over on the right and Fort Worth on the left, and they can easily be divided right down the middle by DFW Airport, which sits right in between Dallas and Fort Worth. But the airport also separates something else in the Metroplex besides Dallas and Fort Worth. It separates sane drivers from insane drivers. Because there's something about crossing that threshold of the airport where speeds automatically go up by 15 or 20 miles per hour, and the congestion gets worse when you get over on the Dallas side. Now, I don't mind riding fast, and I don't mind riding when it's congested, but I don't particularly like riding when it's fast and congested. So I often find myself over in Dallas, and I'm in fairly heavy traffic, and the flow of traffic's going 15 or 20 miles per hour above the posted speed limit. And what do? Before I tell you what I do, let me explain a few things that are important in this conversation. There are two important truths that are going to get you hurt on a motorcycle. One of them is being overconfident, and one of them is being scared. So I think if you don't have a healthy fear while riding a motorcycle, you're going to get in trouble if you're overconfident. But on the other hand, if you're terrified, especially on the freeways around here in DFW, that's going to get you in as much trouble or possibly even more. So I would suggest until you get that confidence and your skills built up to avoid highways, especially in the city. But that brings us to an important point, something that I don't hear talked about a whole lot in motorcycle conversations, and that's speed differential. So what I mean by speed differential is the difference in speed between you riding down the road and the traffic around you. So it could be that you're riding down the road and you're 20 miles per hour faster than everybody else on the road. I would say that's a problem. Or if you're riding down the road and you're 20 miles per hour slower than everybody else on the road, that's equally a problem. So in my opinion and the results of a few studies, the best speed to be riding at any given time is slightly faster than the flow of traffic. And I say slightly faster than the flow of traffic because traveling at that speed, I can concentrate more on what's happening up the road ahead of me and maybe a little bit less about what's going on behind me on the road. If I'm riding slightly faster than the flow of traffic, particularly over on the Dallas side of the map, I'm going over the posted speed limits, because most of the cars around there are going faster than the posted speed limits. Now, I've got a few moto officers who are my friends, and I know some of them watch MCrider on a regular basis, so they're probably going to see this video. And since it's confession time, I'm fully confessing that, yeah, I often ride over the posted speed limits, and I guess if you've got to, you can come get me, come haul me away. But I consider that the safest place to be, slightly faster than the general flow of traffic. And by slightly faster, I mean about 5 miles per hour faster than the average flow of traffic. And if I get pulled over, I'm not going to complain about it. I consider that a safety tax, and it's something that keeps me safer on the road, but a consequence that may occur as a result of riding faster than the flow of traffic. But that being said, in all my years of riding, I've only had one speeding ticket on a motorcycle, and that was because I was in a construction zone and didn't realize it at the time. So I got written up for that. But beyond that, I've never had a problem riding around the Metroplex going slightly faster than the general flow of traffic. So let's talk briefly about that speed differential and why it's so important. There have been several studies done that look at speed differential, or how speed relates to motorcycle accidents, and more in particular, just general automobile accidents. One of those earliest studies resulted in something called Solomon's curve. And Solomon's curve showed that a driver's speed, either above or below the average speed of those drivers around them, resulted in an increased percentage of accidents. And if you look at Solomon's curve here on this diagram, you can see that that sweet spot is just slightly above where I was showing before, maybe 5 miles per hour above the average speed of those cars around you, results in the least number of accidents out on the road. So while pure speed can result in a higher likelihood of accidents, speed differential is often a bigger problem than pure speed to begin with. Aside from just the general flow of traffic that we've already talked about, what are some other areas where speed differential comes into play? Well, one of them that we find even here in Fort Worth is traffic is backed up in one lane. So people are trying to get off the highway and the exit ramp is backed up, or maybe there's an accident causing one of the lanes of traffic to be backed up. And you'll often see cars flying down the other lane at 70 miles per hour. They're still driving at the speed limit when the traffic is backed up and come to almost a complete stop at the lane directly next to them. And that's a recipe for an accident, especially if you're on a motorcycle. Because remember how hard it is for cars to see us, and they may just give a quick glance in that side view mirror before they decide to pull over and get around that traffic that's backed up. And if you're on a motorcycle and you're approaching cars at 70 miles per hour and one of them pulls out in front of you, that's a recipe for a bad day. So speed differential plays a huge impact in situations like that. Another area where speed differential comes into play is in lane splitting. Now, lane splitting causes a visceral reaction in a lot of people, even motorcyclists. A lot of guys will hear it and they're immediately against it. And it's because I think a lot of people, the first thing they think of when they hear lane splitting is this. To me, that's an unsafe riding behavior. That is not safe, even legal lane splitting. For lane splitting to make sense, the speed differential has to be knocked down a lot. So for me, if the traffic is going 20 miles per hour or slower and I'm not exceeding the speed differential of that traffic by more than 5 or 10 miles per hour, I consider this a safe act. I did a video on lane splitting when Texas was looking at a bill, and they've had a few bills that have come up. They've never come to a vote yet to pass lane splitting here in the state of Texas, but for this reason and a few others, I'm in favor of lane splitting. If you want to hear more of my opinions on that, here's a video, and I'd love to hear your opinions on lane splitting as well, particularly some of you guys in California that do it in a safe manner, whether or not you think it's an effective means of motorcyclists getting through traffic. So I've made my confession. I've told you guys that I often go above the posted speed limit, but I believe I've got good reasons to do so, and I believe it makes me a safer rider out on the road. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Leave a comment below whether or not you've actually ever thought about this, or if it's something that you do in practice as well. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And until next week, guys, this is Kevin with MCrider, and we'll see you on the road.